90 Day Fiance was on last night, and in last night's episode, now it sounds like Andrei actually was forced to leave Moldova. Guys, what is up? Happy Monday. Max here, the Celeb Talk guy, and yes, like I just said, 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After was on last night, and so much stuff went down. But first, we have to talk about what happened when Elizabeth's brother and sister and dad talked to Andrei's friend Marcel about Andrei's past, and now according to Marcel, Andrei's best friend, it actually does sound like he was forced to leave the country. So I have to apologize because I have been saying for weeks that there is no way that Andrei has some mysterious dark background. Well, now it kind of sounds like he actually might. So this is the story. Basically, if you guys don't know, Andrei, he's from Moldova, but you know, when he was in his younger, I don't know, 20s, I guess, he picked up and he moved to Ireland. Everyone thought it was kind of weird. No one really knew why. Mainly just Elizabeth's family. They all kind of thought it was odd, and every single time that they would ask Andrei, you know, why did you just randomly pick up and move to Ireland? He was really quiet, he was really short, he wouldn't really give a real explanation. Well, they finally pinpointed Marcel, they met up with him, and they just said, what was the deal? And surprisingly, Marcel was also kind of squirmish and weird, and he wasn't really opening up either, but he just said that me and Andrei both joined the police force, and in Moldova, the police, they aren't very, you know, the most honest people, and one thing led to another, and it finally just came down to where they finally just told Andrei, you have to leave or something bad can happen. Now, when I say they told Andrei, I don't know who that is, if that's just the government or if it's the police, higher up people. I think it's probably just the higher up people in the police workforce, I guess, in Moldova. So I don't know if they're all just like really, you know, not the most honest people in the police over in Moldova, and maybe Andrei was being more honest. That is what Marcel claimed, that the police, they aren't honest at all, and Andrei was trying to be more right, do the right thing, and I guess they weren't having it, and one thing led to another, and they basically just said, you got to get out of here. Now that is all we heard from Marcel, but like I said, he was being short, he was even being vague. Now fingers crossed next week, where maybe we'll get a better explanation from Andrei, but I have to say guys, I am shocked. I always thought Andrei just didn't like Elizabeth's dad and brother, and that is why he was so short about his past and why he just picked up and moved to Ireland, but now I guess there might be a deeper story to all the stuff going on. So guys, put in the comments below what you guys think. What do you think is the real reason why Andrei just picked up and left Moldova and went over to Ireland? Now I'm starting to believe that, yeah, maybe he did kind of get in some trouble. So that was the first part of the episode, and yeah, if you can't tell, I am really surprised. For the rest of everything with, you know, Andrei and Elizabeth and her family, there wasn't much else there. They went and they, you know, went off to a farm, nothing too exciting. But now I want to go over to Kalani and Asuelu, because this couple, I mean, they just continue to surprise me. Now, we all know that Kalani and Asuelu's sister kind of went at it, and then when Kalani told Asuelu about what happened, how they were really, you know, going at it, Asuelu, he was at first kind of agreeing with Kalani, but then all of a sudden, he really started sticking up for his family, and he started calling Kalani names, you know, per typical Asuelu, and then according to 90 Day Fiance, later that night, after the cameras left, they got into a huge fight, and when I say they, I mean Kalani and Asuelu. They were really going at it to the point where Kalani, she picked up, she grabbed the kids, and she went off to a hotel by herself. And she told the cameras one-on-one, she told her mom too, she goes, I can't do this much longer, and she very bluntly said that, hey, I'm not going to stay in this marriage much longer if we can't get a very serious change. She wasn't beating around the bush. That is what she said. She cannot stay in this marriage much longer. Well, surprisingly, it ended up being February 13th when that big fight happened. The next day being the 14th, aka Valentine's Day. And surprisingly, Asuelu showed up to the hotel with a huge thing of balloons and flowers because it is Valentine's Day. So Kalani was surprised, and she was also kind of like, okay, we had a huge fight yesterday. We still haven't made up, and now you want to act like everything's so amazing. So she wasn't really having it. She wasn't very impressed. impressed, and Asuelu just thought that everything was going to be magical and amazing because he got her flowers, got her balloons. So I can kind of see both points, but I definitely agree with Kalani that they do have to hash out their differences and talk about their problems. But I have to say, Asuelu, I don't know if it's just the culture or what it is, but he seems to kind of just have a little bit of a lower maturity level, and so he tries to kind of do things that most, adults in marriages and relationships shouldn't do. Like, he would all of a sudden just start screaming, and maybe it's the culture, maybe his maturity level isn't very low, but I don't know what it is, but it's like all of a sudden he'll just start calling Kalani really, really, really rude names and think that she won't get mad. It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen? So I'm still not really the biggest fan of Asuelu, and honestly, you guys, I don't know what happens. I don't know if Kalani and Asuelu get a divorce. I don't know if they're still together. I honestly have no idea. Based on everyone's social media, you would think that they are still together in some capacity, but honestly, you guys, I really don't know. So put in the comments below what you guys think of that too, but man, I'm telling you, it does not look good for Kalani and Asuelu. Now let's go over to the double couple, so we shall say, and that first starts off with Colt and Jess, and you can pretty much just wrap Debbie in the mix too, because Debbie is practically just the third wheel in this relationship. And yes, if you didn't know, Colt convinced Jess to come over to Vegas to come visit him to kind of work out their differences. However, Colt is holding not one, but two gigantic, secrets from Jess. Number one, Vanessa, that lady friend that he has that Jess cannot stand, actually moved in with Colt and Debbie. And yes, it sounds odd. It does kind of sound scripted. It doesn't even sound real. Why would a full-grown adult move in with Colt and Debbie? But according to Colt, Vanessa was going through a divorce. She had nowhere to go. And Debbie is also pretty good friends with her, so they just said, hey, you come stay with us. That is probably actually true, I guess. So, Jess had no idea. And then number two, Colt was claiming that Jess and Colt, they were going back and forth their relationship. One day they'd be broken up, the next day they'd be still in a relationship, and he is claiming that one of the times when they had broken up, that he was talking to some other women. So he wanted to get Jess to come over to Vegas so he could sit her down and tell her both of these secrets in person. So that's exactly what happened. She came to Vegas, they went to a cafe. I never, ever heard of that. But of course, Vegas, they got one of everything. So I guess they have cat cafes. And I would totally go to a dog cafe. By the way, cat cafes, not my biggest thing. But a dog cafe, I would probably do. But anyway, they met at a cat cafe. And just like that, you could see in Jess's eye, she was not happy. Now, come to find out, she had no idea about the Vanessa moving in situation. But the women that I was talking about, the Colt's other secret, she knew everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything, because come to find out, Colt wasn't telling us the whole story, because Jess says that 8 separate women have reached out to her on social media and said, hey, Colt, your man is hitting me up, and he is sending us some pictures of downstairs, if you know what I'm talking about. And so, Colt, he didn't even deny it, surprisingly, but Jess was screaming at him, going off, because she was saying, hey, we were in a relationship, and you're over there talking to 8 different women, and not only are you talking, you are taking pictures of you-know-what. And Colt just said, honestly, yes, that is the truth. He didn't deny it, which is kind of surprising. I don't know. I think it's just kind of a weird situation. He lied. He pretty much did kind of cheat, because I'm sure Jess thought that they were still in a relationship to a certain extent, so he was not doing things good, and Jess was furious. But for whatever reason, Colt convinced Jess to go back to his place to see his mom, and they kind of said hi. Debbie and Jess were getting along at first, then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, Jess just went off on Colt again, and this time, she went off on him in front of Debbie, and then Colt was just like, hey, Mom, you got to get out of this room, because, he was freaking out that maybe Jess is going to start talking about some of these pictures he has been taking. So Debbie ran out, Jess started getting mad, and then Colt, he kind of calmed her down. He apologized, kind of, sort of, and then he just said, hey, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't know where our relationship was. And he also says that there's something else I'm holding from you, and that is when he tells her about Vanessa, and we didn't get to see, Jess's total reaction, but I can only imagine she was not happy. Now, the funniest, weirdest part about this whole story is that we got to see in the preview for the upcoming episode that Jess meets up with guess who? Yes, Larissa. They met up at a restaurant, and I guess they're just going to talk about their same culture and how much they both just can't stand Colt, I guess. I don't know why they met up, but now they appear to be like really good friends. And after last night's episode, Jess and Larissa were together with Eric. So I guess they're like buddy-buddy now. I guess kind of weird. And that leaves me to talk about Larissa and Eric. And honestly, you guys, I'm gonna keep them quick because, not a fan. Their segments just seems like they're acting. I don't think 90 Day Fiance is making them act. I feel like Eric and Larissa are just acting for the show, just to keep their 5 minutes of fame to stay relevant. On last night's episode, Larissa met with a doctor for her procedures down there, in the words of Eric, for her headlights, and yeah, blah, nothing exciting. That was it. They brought around some random girl who I have never, ever seen before, I don't think. She was like older, like 45, 50-ish. She is Larissa's friend, I guess. For some reason, she drove her to the plastic surgeon. Not sure why. Nothing exciting. Then afterwards, they were talking about, what else Larissa might want to do. If she wants to do her this, her that, her face, her blah, blah, blah. And, honestly, Eric brought up the concern that, geez, Larissa keeps saying that this will be her last thing she's going to get done. But then she keeps getting more and more and more procedures. But I honestly agree with Eric. I mean, I have nothing against if you want to get a little something here or whatever you want to get done. But I mean, it's like, come on. Now, Larissa, she looks perfectly fine. Why do you keep getting stuff done? It's annoying. And the other thing I don't understand too is, where is she getting this money? Supposedly Eric is loaning her like $15 or $20 or $30,000 for these upcoming procedures, which I don't get where he's getting that money from, but supposedly he is loaning her the money. It just makes no sense, and it is very boring to see them, at least in my opinion. So nothing exciting with Larissa and Eric at all. Then we got to see Angela and Michael, and just another ridiculous, boring, not really boring, but this is what happened. Angela's best friend JoJo came to Nigeria because they need to have an American witness. I don't know why. I have never, ever heard anyone else from Nigeria like Usman and Lisa needing an American witness, but supposedly they need one. So JoJo, the friend, came over. She made it. They were having a good old time, and Angela wanted to have a joint bachelorette party with Michael because she does not trust him alone with his friends, which that is like the biggest red flag of a relationship. If you don't trust your future husband with his friends, how are you going to ever stay married? But that's for another time. We can kind of talk about that. But obviously she has very serious trust issues. So they had their joint bachelorette party. They went out to a club or whatever. They were having a good time. And then Angela started seeing some people dancing, some women dancing. And of course, Michael, he wasn't really staring, but he was just kind of grazing off to the distance. And there were people dancing, mainly women, in front of him. They weren't close at all. And he wasn't really staring, I didn't think. Maybe something else happened, that we didn't get to see on camera, but I didn't think it was much of anything, honestly, and Angela blew up. She got so mad. She stormed out of the club, and she just, screamed at Michael. And Michael's sitting there saying, "Baby, I'm sorry," but it's like, what did he even do? I mean, honestly, you guys, it's getting so annoying listening to Angela complain and scream and get mad. It's like, when will she ever be happy? And if she's faking it for the show, okay, that's one thing. It's annoying and I'm sick of seeing it. But if she is actually this ornery and this mad and this dramatic 24/7 in real life, I don't know how Michael is going to ever stay married to her. It just doesn't seem possible because she is constantly 24/7 complaining that his eyes are wandering or he's not doing this or he's not doing that. When will Angela ever be happy? But like I said, maybe it's just fake for the show. And then last but not least, I believe, would be Paul and Karine, and we got to see some pretty good stuff with them. Now, we all know so much stuff is going on with Paul and Karine in present day, and actually Paul just posted on social media yesterday that he is back in Brazil, supposedly fixing up their house in Brazil, and Karine is now in Indiana, which I know they were living in Kentucky, and Indiana is just one state north, so maybe she has some friends or something up there, I hope. Hopefully her and Pierre are doing well, but Paul claims he went over to Brazil by himself in present day right now to go fix up their old house. Is it true? I have no idea. But on last night's episode, we got to see Karine go to an immigration lawyer, and she kind of talked about how they're having all these issues and all these fights with her and Paul, and how it's not going well, and how she was kind of curious, and if she wanted to, could she go back to Brazil with their son, Pierre? And of course, the lawyer just said, yes, you can, but there might be some consequences if Paul is not happy about that. And she ended up telling Paul later in the episode that, yeah, I met up with a lawyer, and Paul just right down the line was, he was mad about the fact, he was like, how did you even get there, number one? And number two, he was mad about, what, you're going to try to take my kid, and he was just so upset. He was name-calling, she was name-calling, neither of them are in the right. This is just a horrible couple, very toxic, and once again, I feel bad for Pierre and their future kid. And then towards the end of the episode, Paul kind of calmed down, and he apologized to Karine, and he gave her a hug, and he said, I'm sorry, I overreacted, but Karine just started getting extremely emotional, and honestly, I don't like Karine at all. I think she is so negative, and she's constantly nagging, and Paul, you already know my thoughts on Paul, not a very big fan either, but I feel a little bit more bad for Karine at the time being, because it's like she's not in her home country, she's completely alone now, and I do kind of honestly feel for her. So Paul and Karine, as typical, of course, lots and lots and lots of fighting. So guys, 90 Day Fiance, what an episode. This, unbelievable show. We are now starting to hear a ton of different rumors on that there's going to be new seasons coming out very soon. And tonight we have the mid-season finale of 90 Day Fiance The Other Way. And also last night, if y'all, watch Bravo, if you guys watch the Real Housewives show, Real Housewives of Potomac was on last night. And yes, you can already believe I recorded it and I watched it. So later today, I believe I'm also going to do a little recap episode type video on, the Real Housewives of Potomac episode from last night. And if you guys want to hear it and you want to see it, just make sure to put in the comments below, let me know. But for everyone else, what an episode. I can't believe it. So much drama happened, and I definitely want to hear from you guys. So comment below your thoughts on Andrei, what you guys think with that, and Kalani and Asuelu, and everything else. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to tap that like button, tap the subscribe button, comment below, and stay tuned for many more videos.